You've probably heard of the Muslim Brotherhood. You've heard it come up a lot recently. But who are they, and what role do they want to play in Egypt's future? Joining me right now is Rashid Naim. He is a professor of political science at Georgia State University. He has studied the region and the Brotherhood for decades now. So thank you for joining us today. All right, so listen, are they a real threat when it comes to stability and the uprising in Egypt?
Well, there's certainly important players in the uprising. But if you mean by threat that they are an organization which is going to cause chaos and violence in Egypt, I don't think that's accurate.
Most people, when you say the Muslim Brotherhood and you compare this to other regions, or Iran and what's going on, people would think Al-Qaeda or people would think the Taliban. What is that? Is there a comparison there?
There is none, except that Al-Qaeda considers organizations like the Muslim Brotherhood to be traitors and sellouts. And when we talk about finding groups and organizations who can, using Muslim culture, still stand up to extremists like Al-Qaeda, I would think that the Muslim Brotherhood would be one such organization which would be able to do that.
Okay, so they're not considered quite as extreme as that group.
No, certainly not.
All right, so who are they and what do they want? What do they stand for?
Okay, let me just say one thing and then we'll talk. How about we talk a little bit briefly about the history, because they have evolved over time.
Yeah,
right?
go for it.
So the first thing to remember about this is that a lot of what we hear about Al-Qaeda, about the Muslim Brotherhood, is really what the ruling elites of the region say. And they're really using this organization to frighten Western countries into supporting dictatorial and corrupt governments. And what they're saying is, look, it's either us or it's these crazies out here, right? And that is really not accurate.
Okay.
First of all, they're not crazies. And secondly, they're not in a position necessarily to seize power everywhere either, right?
They're not, you say they're not crazy, but they are extreme.
I wouldn't even call them extreme, because if you look at how the organization has evolved over time, it has really moved from being a hierarchical, very conservative organization into being a much more pluralistic organization internally. And there are lots of streams of thought within the organization. They are much more inclined to accept what we would consider to be a accountable government and open government.
Okay, Professor, not that we'd want to dumb it down, but when you talk about pluralism, right? Those are terms that you use in the classroom, and you hear the politicos using those words. What do you mean by pluralism?
Well, I mean that they understand that Egypt is a complex society. It's made up of many different groups of people who have different ideas, and that no one group is capable of running the country by itself.
Are they generally on the side of Mubarak?
No, they're not.
They're not?
They have actually not been on the side of any Egyptian government since they were formed. Yes.
Here's the thing that people are concerned about, and I heard this, I've been hearing this since it started, that maybe the Muslim Brotherhood is sort of laying in wait, letting the young people get out in front of this uprising, and then once there's a change of power, or there is no government, or what have you, then they will come out and do their thing and take over. Right now, they know too many people are watching.
Yeah, well, you know, it's obviously impossible to predict what's going to happen. But based on what I know of what I have studied about the organization, I really don't think that's going on. What I think is going on, that the Muslim Brotherhood, like a lot of other political organizations in Egypt, have really been caught by surprise at the extent of the opposition and the willingness of the protesters to go out there and continue to protest and so on and so forth. We know, of course, that members of the organization are among the protesters, but they have certainly not tried to, take over the movement or anything of the kind.
So basically, you say they don't have much power.
Well, I'm not saying they don't have much power. They probably are the single most important political group in Egypt in terms of their strength right now, but they certainly don't have the support of the majority of Egyptians. I don't think that would turn out the case if we were ever to have a free election.
Okay. Hey, listen, I know I want to bring this up. Tom, can we just go to the picture real quick in Tahrir Square of the Christians who are protecting the Muslims who are praying there?
Absolutely.
I went to the rally today and they were saying Christian and Muslims together, and that is a huge transition for Egypt, for this region.
It is.
What does that mean?
Well, it means that people realize that the problems that they are facing are problems which are common, and that this is dividing them along religious lines or ethnic lines or whatever lines is just something which weakens their ability to get what all of them need. And there's a conscious decision to do that. I just want to point out here that we know that in 2005, in the last elections in Egypt, which were held, which were relatively open, in which the Muslim Brotherhood emerged as the largest opposition party in parliament. They got 88 seats, about 20% of the vote. It seems that there were areas of Egypt where Christians voted for them because they thought that they were capable of bringing something better than what the current
And
government.
it shows that those pictures and what you said, it shows that this uprising is not about faith. It's more about democracy, and it's about young people who want freedom and democracy and equality.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.